That morning, the rain fell in an unbroken curtain, the drops tapping against the bus windows, like soft, insistent knocking. The bus was 15 minutes late, and the driver didn't say a word, just waved me aboard with a quick flick of his hand. I took a seat near the back, my raincoat still clinging to my legs, cold and damp. The usual loudmouths in the rear were oddly quiet today, hunched over, fidgeting with their fingers, not saying a word. The whole bus carried a strange weight, nothing like the usual chaos. I turned to look out the window, but the world outside was just a smear of grey, the occasional blur of an umbrella as someone hurried past. I was about to close my eyes and try to sleep when the bus jerked to a stop at an intersection. When I looked up, everyone was staring out the window at something. I followed their gaze, and there she was. A girl in a white dress, standing at the curb. Her hair was plastered to her face, her features impossible to make out. She wasn't holding an umbrella, wasn't even trying to get out of the rain, just standing there, staring straight at us. The driver suddenly spoke up. "Whose little sister is that? What's she doing out here?" No one answered. He opened the doors, motioning for her to come in. I don't know where the words came from, but I shouted, "Don't let her on." The whole bus turned to look at me. Even the driver froze. But the girl stepped inside anyway, dripping wet. She stood at the front of the bus, her eyes hollow. The driver hesitated, then gestured for her to take a seat in the back. I watched her walk down the aisle, my stomach twisting, my feet suddenly cold. Once the bus started moving again, the rain grew heavier, pounding against the windows like a flood. Nobody looked at the girl. The only sound was the downpour until, faintly, from the very back, came a whisper. Like someone reciting something under their breath. I turned around. The girl was gone. I shot up from my seat. Where did she go? The driver slammed the brakes. Kids screamed. The back row was empty. No girl, no puddle, nothing. The driver's face went pale. He pulled over, made us all get off, and called someone who, I don't know. The rain kept falling, harder now, as we stood on the sidewalk, staring at the empty bus, not a soul inside. After that day, the driver kept his route. None of us ever mentioned what happened. But sometimes, when it rains, I still hear tapping on the windows, like someone wants to be let in. It was raining that day, one of those endless afternoon thunderstorms. My parents were out of town, attending a friend's funeral. They wouldn't be back until morning. I was alone in the house, the TV murmuring in the background, though I wasn't really watching. The air inside was damp, the floor near the walls felt slick. I turned on the dehumidifier and flipped on every light, but the house still felt grey, like the storm had seeped inside. Then, just before 7, the power went out, a sharp click, and everything went dark. I used my phone as a flashlight and checked the breaker box. The switches were fine. My stomach tightened. I called my dad, no answer. I was about to head back to my room when I heard footsteps upstairs. Like someone walking down the hallway. I froze. I'd locked the door earlier, hadn't I? Hello. I called out softly. No reply. I crept up the stairs, the wood groaning under my weight. At the end of the hall, the door to the spare room, the one we never used, was open. I knew I'd closed it that morning. I stepped inside, sweeping my phone's light across the empty space. Nothing. Then, a hand touched my shoulder. I whipped around. No one there. I bolted for the stairs, but before I could move, a whisper brushed against my ear close. The words were garbled, but my heart hammered so hard, I thought it would burst. I turned to run downstairs and froze. At the bottom of the steps stood a shadow, tall, motionless. I couldn't move. It didn't either. Who are you? My voice shook. No answer. Then the shadow melted, shrinking like water draining away. The lights flicked back on. The hallway was empty. I sprinted to the front door, locked, dead bolted from the inside. I didn't remember doing that. I spent the night on the couch, too afraid to sleep, too afraid to move. When my parents came home the next morning, I told them what happened. Dad just laughed and said I was being paranoid. I didn't argue. But ever since that night, I check every lock, every light, before bed. Because I know I wasn't the only one in the house that night. It was a Saturday, and the rain was coming down hard. I couldn't stand being cooped up inside, so I threw on my raincoat and went for a walk. Before I knew it, I found myself at the small park near our neighborhood. The park was empty except for the sound of rain hitting the pavement. I walked slowly down the tree-lined path, umbrella in hand, when I noticed someone sitting on a bench up ahead, also holding an umbrella. She wore a red raincoat, her face hidden beneath the hood, head bowed as if looking at her phone. I passed by her, but she didn't look up. After a few steps, I glanced back. She was still sitting there. I kept walking. When I reached the pavilion, I saw another figure, same red raincoat, same posture, standing by one of the pillars. That's when I knew something was wrong. I quickened my pace, heading for the exit. But as I approached the gate, a third figure in red stood with their back to me. I froze. Turning around, I saw that the person from the bench was now standing a short distance away. The air grew damp and cold, the wind swirling from all directions, driving the rain into my face. "Who are you?" I whispered. No answer, no movement. Then, from behind me, a voice spoke. "You shouldn't be here." I spun around. A middle-aged man stood in the rain, no umbrella, his face dripping. He said he was the park patrol and told me to leave immediately. When I asked about the others, he just looked at me and said, "No one stays in this park on days like this. No one who wants to leave, anyway." I nodded, trembling, and hurried out. When I reached the main road, I looked back. The three red figures were still there, and moving. I called the police and mentioned the patrolman. The officer frowned. "That park doesn't have patrols," he said. "No one's been assigned there in years." I didn't argue. Because whether they believed me or not, I knew one thing for sure. If I ever set foot in that park again, my heart would freeze in my chest. That afternoon, I went to mail a package. The rain was coming down hard, slapping against my car windows as I pulled into the nearest parking spot. I sprinted inside the post office, shaking water off my coat. The place was quiet, only 2 or 3 people in line. I took off my damp hat and joined the queue. The post office was small, with just one counter open. Ahead of me stood a young mother holding a sleeping child. She looked exhausted, whispering to the baby as she rocked it gently. My eyes wandered around the room, and that's when I noticed the window in the corner. It was closed, or at least, it had been. Now, it was slowly creeping open on its own. I thought it might be the wind, but the other windows stayed shut, untouched. This one faced a storage area stacked with cardboard boxes. Water dripped from the sill, as if someone had splashed it from outside. When it was my turn, the clerk, a tired-looking young guy, took my package without much interest. As he processed it, I nodded toward the window. "Is that window broken?" He glanced up, then stiffened. "Again? What do you mean?" He kept his voice low. "That thing opens every time it rains hard. We've had it fixed." "Doesn't matter." I turned back. The window was wide open now. Dark, wet stains spread under the boxes in the corner. "You have security cameras?" I asked. "No old building." After finishing my business, I lingered near the wall, waiting for the rain to ease. By then, the post office was empty except for me and the clerk. Then thud. Something had fallen by the window. I walked over. An old, cracked umbrella lay on the floor. I bent to pick it up, my fingers brushing the handle. And a deep, wet cough rattled from outside the window. I jerked upright. Nothing there, just grey sky and misty rain. But that sound had been real. I spun toward the counter. The clerk was gone. I was alone. "Hey," I called out. The window slammed shut, glass trembling. I stumbled back, knocking into the stack of boxes. They toppled, spilling not papers, but moldy letters. Some envelopes had split open, revealing yellowed photos inside. Photos of this very post office, but older, worn in ways it shouldn't be. I picked one up. In the corner of the frame stood a blurred figure, its face smeared beyond recognition. I shoved the photo back, heart pounding, and turned to leave. Just as the clerk stepped through the back door like nothing had happened. "Where'd you go?" I demanded. He blinked. "Nowhere. Been here the whole time." I stared at him, then left without another word. He didn't ask why I looked so pale. I never went back. Later, I checked the local news. No reports of accidents at that post office, no history of anything strange. But I know the truth. That window wasn't broken. Something was trying to get in.